Hierophants. So by now, I expect you to have a decent level of familiarity with MT5's Python API. So far, you have been able to perform a number of very important activities which mostly pertain to getting symbol-specific information using the API. However, in this section, we'll start to crank up the heat and we'll learn how to get historical data for Forex symbols. And getting the historical data is going to be the key to implement any strategy or even any backtesting of a strategy, because historical data plays a key role in pretty much any quantitative strategy. In this section, we will delve into how we can use the API to get historical data. And for that, let me first take you to the documentation page. And we have got the most unintuitive name for getting historical data. And that function is called copy rates from. I would not have been able to guess in a million years that this is the function to get historical data, but it is what it is. So let us click on copy rates from function details. And it says that it helps you get bars or candlestick data from MT5 terminal, starting from the specified date. Again, fairly straightforward function. All that you have to pass is the symbol, the time frame, which means the type of candle, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, whatever, date from which date, and this date has to be in date time format, so we'll come to that in a bit. And then you can also mention the count. What's the number of bars that you want to extract? Alright, and for time frame, there are some predefined MQL5 objects that we'll have to use. So for example, we'll have to use things like this: time frame, M1, time frame, M2, which stands for 1 minute candle, 2 minute candles, etc. Alright, so these are all the objects that you can use. And again, there is a sample code given here, but let me not use it as of now. Let us simply use this function, copy rates from, and let's see whether we are able to make sense of the documentation. So extract historical data. So let me store the historical data in a variable called hist_data. And the function that we have to use is copy rates from. So let me select this. So all that we need to pass is the symbol, the time frame, date from, count, blah, blah, blah. So symbol, let us use Euro USD. For time frame, like I told you, every single time frame object that you saw is an attribute of the MT5 class. So as soon as you select MT5.timeFrame, if you're using Spider, you can see a drop down of all these class attributes that you can use. So in this case, let me use an hourly time frame. Right? So you have to pass MT5 time frame object. You cannot pass a string here. So that's very important. And this date has to be a date time object. So let us import the date time Python package. And then here you will have to pass the date in the date time object. So the way to convert a date to date time object is dt.datetime. And then you have to pass year, month, and day. So let us get data from 1st of October 2023. And then you can also mention the max number of bars that you want. The first bar would be the latest bar, and it will go back 100 bars up to whichever come first. Date or will the count runs out. So let us get 200 candles. Actually, we are doing a 1 hour candle, so we won't get 200 candles. So let me make this a 15-minute time frame, M15. Alright, so now let me run this line of code and let me show you what we get. Sorry, I have not imported date time, so let me quickly do that. Now let us run this. It took a couple of seconds and you can see that we have got the hist data. And the type is array of void 480. Again, MQL5 is written in C++ language, so you see a lot of these array types. And if you're using Spider and if you want to visualize what this variable is, but in this case, you won't be able to find it. You'll only see the timestamps. You won't be able to see the historical data. And that's because the variable explorer program of Spider ID that I'm using is unable to render this particular data type. But if you want to actually see what is there in historical data, you can simply run this variable and you can see that this is the actual contents of the variable. You can see that there's a timestamp, there is an open, high, low, close, volume, and then there are two other things. What are these? Quickly check the documentation and see what these are. Alright, so time, open, high, low, close, take volume, spread, and VL volume. I'm not really sure what these are. If you look into the documentation, you should be able to figure out what these two things are. Alright, so we have got this information. But as of now, if you see, this is not the data type or a data structure that we are most comfortable with, this array of void. So we'll have to convert it into data frame because that's something we are most familiar with. So for that, let us call pandas. And this data structure, you can convert it into a data frame in one line of code. All that you will have to do is use pd.dataframe and then simply pass this historical data variable that we have got. And that's pretty much it. So let me store this data frame in the hist.data.df variable. So if I run this now, come on, I keep forgetting actually importing the library after writing the command. Sorry about that. So now if I run this, you can see that we have a data frame. And now if I double click on this, you can see that we've got a very nice looking data frame with open, high, low, close, tick, volume, spread, and volume, along with the timestamp. But one thing that looks a bit strange is this timestamp. So the data that we get, this is Unix timestamp. This is a time unit in seconds. If you convert this into minutes, you will actually get the time. But this is not a unit that we can derive a lot of sense from. So let us convert this into a time unit that we can actually understand. So all that we have to do is convert this time column into a date time object. So let's see if we can do that. So let me close this. So what happens if I do pd.toDateTime? I think this is the function. Yeah. So pd.toDateTime. And here we are going to pass the time column. Let me double check the name of the column again. It is time, right? So hist.data.df.time. So let me run this and see whether this works or not. I don't think the conversion has happened. Oh, sorry. I think there is another argument called unit. Let's see here. Yeah, unit. So we have to tell Python what is the unit of a time that we are converting. So this time is in seconds, right? So let us do that. So now if I convert it into date time, yeah, so this is what we wanted to do. So these are 15 minutes candles, and you can see that the first candle that we have is from 27th September 2023, 10 p.m. to 10:15 p.m. And then we have 15-minute candles. Again, we just ran this command to see what happens. This command will not make any changes in the actual historical data frame. So let's do that now. So all that you'll have to do is override the time column. So now if I run this, and now if I open historical data.df, you see that we have got the time column in the format that we want. And just one more thing, just to make this thing complete, I want to make this time as the index, right? So usually that's the format that we follow. So I could have done that before converting it into a datetime object, but that's fine. It's never too late. Hist data.df.set index. And here I'll have to give the name of the column that I want to set as the index. So if I run this, let's see what happens. Okay, so you can see that now it's the index. But if you open the historical data frame, you'll see that the changes have still not been made in place. All that it does is that it gives you a copy. So you'll have to use the argument in place is equal to true. And that is it. So now if I run this line of code, this is the data frame that we actually want. So I'll stop this lecture video right now. This lecture video was all about familiarizing you with the copy rates from API call. But right now, this is just a bunch of commands. I don't like code like this. We would ideally want to create a function and make extracting historical data more streamlined. Ideally, I would want you to just give a symbol, a time frame in a better format, not like this, but just a string and some other arguments that you may want to add to get your required historical data. So let us build from what we have so far here and create a function that we can reuse. So we'll continue this in the next lecture video. Thanks. Hello friends. So continuing from where we left off, in this lecture video, we will change these bunch of commands into a get historical data function, which we will reuse throughout this course. So the idea is that we will define a function. So let me call this function get hist data or something like that. Then we'll have a bunch of arguments based on what you think user would provide as an input to this function to get the required historical data. And then using the copy rates from API call, we should get a very nice and streamlined historical data frame. Alright, so that is the objective. So let's start doing it. So the first argument is going to be symbol. The function has to know for which symbol we want to get the historical data. So that is a requirement for sure. Let me change this to symbol. Then I don't like the way we are providing this time frame information. As of now, this time frame underscore M15 is an attribute of the MT5 class. And I don't really want the users to provide this information like this in a function call. And we definitely want to give our users the flexibility to extract historical data for any given time frame. So what is the way out? Let me first create an argument called time frame. And this argument would be of the type string. Actually, you know what? Let us follow the good practices of defining Python functions, which is to have a description of the function that you're creating. And you see in Spider, as soon as you give the triple quotes, which is a multi-line command operator in Python, it populates a template for you to update. So it just picks up all the arguments that you had provided in your argument list, and then it creates some kind of a definition. All right, so let us update this. So parameters is symbol type string. And let me give you an example of what kind of symbols we can give. So it would be something like this. All right, so this is descriptive enough. What kind of symbol they need to give based on this information. Do we need to provide description? I think this is self-descriptive. So I'm not going to provide description for this. Time frame, again, the idea is that this would be string. An example of time frame would be something like this. So time frame underscore M15. All right, so like this. And this function returns historical data frame. All right, so we have updated the description. This description is also called docstring. And the good thing is that when you search for this function in your IDE, it will display the entire docstring that you have entered as part of this function definition. So populating docstring is a very good coding practice, because if your function is going to be used by other people, or if you are going to use this function after a long time, the docstring is actually very helpful to figure out what you are trying to do. So that's taken care of. We will probably add some more arguments here, but as we'll add them, we will update it here. Alright, so the thing is that I want to provide time frame in string. But how do I take care of this? MT5 requires time frame in this format, which is the attribute of MT5 object. So for that, I would be using a Python OOP concept. And within Python, there is a function that is provided called getAttribute. And in this function, all you have to do is provide the name of the object, which in this case is MT5. And by the way, this is the docstring of the getAttribute function. So whoever was defining getAttribute function under the docstring, this is all the definition that they have put in. So as soon as I type getAttribute and give the parenthesis in my IDE, which is Spider, the entire docstring gets displayed. So I can very easily figure out what it is trying to do. So what does it say? Get a named attribute for an object. Get attribute, the object, and whatever is the attribute that you're looking for. Alright, so let me show you a quick example. So if I pass this time frame M15 as a string to this get attribute function, and if I run this, I will get MT5.timeframe underscore M15. That's what I should get. Let me quickly check it. Okay, so the value that we've got is 15. But if you go into MT5 documentation, you will see that this 15 is the numerical representation of MT5 dot timeframe M15. So I can assure you that this function is exactly the same as MT5 dot timeframe underscore M15. All that we'll have to do is replace this specific time frame with the time frame argument that we are using, and that's about it. So now we have been able to make this function slightly more flexible, because all that you have to do is provide the symbol and whatever time frame historical data you want, and you will get the required data. There is one more problem. If you recall, the copy rates from function also has one additional mandatory requirement, which is time till. Till what time do you want the information? And I find that this is a very annoying requirement, because when you are requesting historical data, typically you want historical data till the current time. So let us provide the users with that flexibility that in case they don't provide with this information, time till, they should get the historical data till the current period whenever they are running this particular function. Alright, so let me make this none by default. So if time till argument is not provided, by default, we should be getting the data till that time, till the current time. Alright, and MT5 requires that this time till information should be in the date time format. So we'll take care of all that. Just give me 1 second. So time till type is going to be date time. Actually, no, we are not going to provide time information. If at all we are going to provide time information in this unwieldy date time format, we'll simply provide it in a string format, which would look something like this. YYYYMMDD. Let me put this in quotes so that people understand that we are trying to get it in a string format. Actually, let me make this a bit more flexible. Let me also allow users to give hour and minute information. So I'm doing that because when we are going to implement backtesting, we may have to extract data till a specific time in the day. For example, 2 p.m. or 1 p.m. or 12:30 p.m. based on at which candle we have got a signal. Alright, so it's also very important that rather than having this as YYYYMDD, we also provision for users to give time in hour, minute and second format. Alright, so that is what we will have to factor in. So let me write a simple if-else logic. So if time till is equal to none, which is by default, so that means if you have not provided any information for time till, then I am going to update the time till information as the current time. So dt.datetime.now. So if I run this, this will give me whatever is the current time. Alright, so 2nd Jan 2024, this is the hour, minute, second. So this is the exact format that MT5 wants. Alright, so let me remove this and let me make this time till. However, if the person has provided the information, if we have time till information, then the person is expected to provide it in this format. And we have to convert that into date time because that is what MT5 understands. And we all know how to convert string to date time. We have been doing that a lot. So time till is equal to date time dot. When you are converting string to date time, we use the function strp time. And when it's the other way around, when you're trying to convert a date time into string format, we use strf time. Alright, so in this case, we want strp time. So the first thing that you have to provide is the string that you're trying to convert into date time. And then you have to mention the format that this string is in so that the date time is able to parse it accordingly. Alright, so it is %y. So %y is equivalent to YYYY dash % small m. Small m is equivalent to numeric month in 2 integer format. And then lastly, %d, which is same as the date in 2-digit DD format. Then there is a space %h colon %m colon %s. So why am I getting an error here? Time. Sorry about that. If time till. Right. So this should take care of the time till value. And then if you recall, the last mandatory argument was the number of candles that we need. So number of candles by default, let me make it 200. So if the user is not going to provide how many number of candles they want, the function will output 200 candles by default. Let me also make this num candles. Type is int. And I don't really think I need to give an example here because it is integer. Okay, if you want, you can add a description that this is the number of candles that the function will return. I'll leave that to you. Alright, so this should take care of everything. Here, let me update this with number of candles. Alright, and nothing else needs to change here. Let me return the historical data df. Alright, let me quickly run this function and let's test whether this is working or not. Okay, so let's quickly test it. So get historical data. Let's do it for USD CAD. I want the time frame as M30 and let me store this in historical data variable. So if I run this, it looks like we have got historical data. So if I open this, we have got 30 minutes data and we have got the data till the current time. Alright, so this looks good, but let me give you a heads up that this function still has a deficiency and that has to do with the time zone mismatch. And let me explain to you the problem and the solution in the next lecture video. Thanks. Hello friends. So in the last lecture video, we created this get historical data function which allows a user to provide just the symbol and the time frame at the minimum and then get the historical data. But I gave you a heads up in the last lecture video that there is still one deficiency with this function. And let me show that deficiency to you. So let me run the function and try to get the data for USD CAD 30 minutes. So just look at the historical data. Alright, so it looks like we have got the data, we've got open, high, low, close. And the last data that we have got is for 3rd Jan 2024, 5:30 a.m. And this time is in UTC. By default, MetaTrader provides information in UTC format. Now let me take you to the MT5 terminal and see whether this data is matching with the data that we see on the chart or not. Alright, so this is the same USD CAD chart. This is 30 minutes. So we would expect to get the same historical data. So let's see what we have here. First of all, look at the time, 7:30 a.m. So this is not the UTC time because UTC we just saw is 5:30 a.m. right now. So this is 2 hours ahead, which means that the charts that we get on the MT5 terminal are in the Eastern European time zone. And why Eastern European time zone? Because that is where the MetaTrader company, which has created the MT5 software, is located. Okay, and this is the reason why if you try to match up the data, you will not match. So let us go back to the last candle and let's look at the open price. So the open price here is 1.33274. Here the open price is something entirely different, 1.33294. So where is this information? Where is this 1.33274? So for a very strange reason, the software developers of MT5 did not make this thing consistent. So look at this 5:30 a.m. So the 5:30 a.m. candle that you see here, you will get the same data for 5:30 a.m. on the MT5 chart, irrespective of what time zone these two are. So let's go to 5:30 a.m. and I can assure you that you will see the same open, high, low and close. So where is 5:30 a.m.? Yeah, see, it's the same. 1.33274, 1.33283, 1.33248 and 1.33254. The exact same. Alright, so as a result, this code is useless because it's giving us garbled historical data. So let us do that. It's not that difficult to fix it. Let's quickly fix that and that will take care of our final historical data. And before we do that, to MT5 credit, they have actually mentioned this issue in the documentation. So let me quickly take you to your documentation again. Right, and this is the documentation, and if you see the example, they have clarified that you would need to make the time zone consistent, otherwise you will get an error. So we will have to import the PyTZ package, which is a very popular Python package to align time zones, etc. So let's do that. So import PyTZ. So now we have two ways to resolve this issue. Either convert everything to the UTC time zone, which means also making the MT5 chart time as UTC and make it consistent with this, or make the Python API data consistent with Eastern European time, which is the same time zone as the MT5 chart. So the easier way is to convert the data which you pull from the MT5 chart into UTC, which is what they have explained in the documentation. So let us do that. But before that, let me explain to you the problem that you're going to have based on the jurisdiction or based on the time zone that you're located in. So if you recall, in the last lecture video, when time till was none, we said that just make the time till as the current time. But this current time is time zone agnostic. So if I run this, you can see that this is giving me the current time where I am presently located, which is 3rd Jan 2024, 12:17 p.m. So I know that I am 3.5 hours ahead of Eastern European time. So you can see that from the date time object that I have got. So obviously I cannot supply this data because this will completely mess up the historical data like we just saw. So we will have to convert this into UTC time. And when we send this UTC time to MT5 and tell MT5 that I'm sending you this time in UTC, it will give me the consistent data. So let me show it how you can do that. So first of all, I want to convert the current time to UTC. This is actually fairly straightforward. So first you will have to localize this time. First you have to tell Python that this time belongs to a specific time zone. And once you have localized this time, we can very easily convert it into whichever time zone we want. So first of all, let me make a variable called current time zone. And I'll be using the time zone function of pytz. And here I have to provide the zone information. And this zone is a string which tells Python which time zone I am referring to. And if you want to get a list of all pytz time zones, I think there is a function, all time zones, yeah. It's not even a function, it's an attribute. So if you run this, you will get the exhaustive list of every single time zone in the world, which your Python pytz library understands. So I am currently based out of India, so I have to tell Python that this current time belongs to the Indian time zone. And if I recall, yeah, this Asia Kolkata is my time zone. So I am going to define this. So let me run this. Okay, let me comment it out. We don't want to generate all time zones every time we run this function. Alright, so now that you have the current time zone object, all you have to do is use the localize function. So current time zone dot localize current time. So if I run this now, you will see that Python now understands that this is the current time and this time belongs to this time zone. Okay, and once you have it, converting it into any other time zone is very straightforward. All that you have to do is use the replace function, and within replace function, you have to mention which time zone you want to replace, and for that we use the tz info. So here we need to give UTC. So UTC is fairly straightforward. I think pytz.utc would also work, but I am going to make this function flexible. If you want to convert it into a different time zone, you can use something like this. So required time zone is equal to pytz time zone and then whatever time zone you want to convert. So in this case, you want to convert it into UTC. So I think it is ETC, UTC, something like that. ETC, UTC, yeah, not UCT. Yeah, so let me copy this and let me paste it here and let me make this required TZ. Okay, so now if I run this line of code, actually I have not yet instantiated required time zone, so let me do that. So if I run this now, you can see that now it has converted it into ETC UTC. Okay, let us quickly run this piece of code and let us see whether now we are getting the correct information or not. So if I run this and if I open historical data, you can see that now I've got till 8:30 a.m. So let us go to the MT5 chart and see whether this is the last candle that we have there. And if you see 8:30 a.m. open price 1.33238, open price 1.33238 will not match the others because this candle has not yet closed, but you can double check. Now you will match every single candle. Now, what about when the person is actually providing time till information? So think about it. when we are running the backtesting, we will use the function get historical data. We'll first provide time till is equal to none, which means we get data till the current time. And then we'll go row by row by row by row. And then probably we'll have to pull information till a given time. So for example, I may require that I get data till this point, 29th of December 2023, 4:30 a.m. So I will be providing this date time object as an input. Once again, all that you do there is ensure that the time zone that we are providing is UTC. That's it. So let us quickly test this now. So if I have time till is equal to, how do I get the time till information? So let me do something. Let me do the index is equal to hist data dot index. I think this should give me all the dates. So let me generate this variable. I want data ending at this specific candle, 5:30 a.m., 27th of December, 2023. And once again, these times are Eastern European time. The last candle is 8:30 a.m. This is not UTC. What putting UTC has done is that it has made both the time zones consistent, but you still get the data as per the MT5 chart because everything is consistent. But this time is in the Eastern European time, so we have to convert it into UTC, which we have done. Alright, so let me pass this. So this would be index 1, right? So if I run index 1, I should get the second timestamp. So let me run this and let's see what we get. Let me call it his data 2 or something like that. Oops, sorry. I forgot that we provide time frame in string format. So .strf time. This is the format. I think it would be dt.strf time this. Let me quickly check it. So dt.datetime.strf time. Then here we have to give index 1 and then the format. This is the format. Let's see if this is correct, else we will fix it on the fly. First, let me run this and see whether this converts the timestamp into a string or not. It does. So now let us run it and see what we get. Okay, so his data 2. Well, I was hoping to see 5:30 a.m. here. It has not done that. So looks like this is not correct. So we will have to figure out what to do about this. Will I have to first localize this into Eastern European time? Probably. Let's check it out. Again, I have never done this before. It's the first time I'm doing it with you. It's actually fun because working with different time zones is challenging, but it's fun. So let us again run this and see which one should we get. European, which is Eastern European time. I think Kyiv is. So let me do that. Okay. So just like how we localized it, EETTZ, we'll first localize whatever time we have got here. Dot localize this strf time. And then we will replace it with the required time zone, which is the UTC time zone. Let us check it now. His data 2, bingo. So this was fun, but it's very important that you have a fairly good understanding of what we did here. Historical data in MT5, which is where you are expected to work with different time zones, is meaningless until and unless you have ensured that you have considered all the time zones and your MT5 and your Python data is consistent. Alright, so I'll stop this lecture video now. I'm going to share this code. Play with it. Let me know if there are any issues with the code, and I'll be more than happy to fix it. Thanks a lot. Hello friends. If you got too overwhelmed in the last lecture video, working with so many different time zones, there is a good news for you. There is another historical data API that MT5 provides that is time agnostic. So let me take you back to the documentation. Alright, so we had been looking at copy rates from. For time agnostic historical data, you need to use copy rates from position. Alright, and you can look at the description, get the bars from MT5 terminal starting from the specified index. Now what on earth is this index? So index simply means the specific row that you want. So for example, if you use index as 0, this will give you every single candle till the current time. If you give index as 1, this will give you every single candle till the second last candle, and likewise. So here you don't really need to worry about time zones, etc., etc. All that we'll do is use copy rates from position. So let us quickly check this API call and let's see what all we'll need to change. So first let me copy this particular API call. And all it takes is symbol, time frame, start position, and count. So very similar to copy rates from. So let us go and change our function. So this is the function that we had created. Let me do something. Let me copy this entire function. Let me paste it here. And let me call this function get his data numeric index or something like that. So I still need the symbol. I still need the time frame. Time till is not really required. We don't need the time. Instead, we need to give start position. So let me make this as a default start position of 0, which would mean that I want data till the current time. And then num candles would remain num candles. Okay, so the only thing that will change here is this. So this would be start position. Type would be int. Example 0 means data till current time, right? So we don't need all this time zone specific information. So let me remove this. Don't even need to worry about this time till none, whatever, thankfully. So let us remove it. Now the only thing that will change here is copy rates from position. This would be symbol. This would be get attribute MT5 time frame. No change here. This would be start position. And then you'll have number of candles. And that should be it. Yeah, and I have to change the name of the function for sure. So MT5 copy rates from position, right? So now let us check this. So if I copy this, paste it here, change the function call name. So if I run this, and if I check out the historical data, you can see that we have got the data till the current time. So 9:30 a.m. is the current Eastern European time right now. Let me confirm this. All right. So 9:30, that is what we have got here. So in this case, we simply avoid all this time zone monkey business and we get the same information that we were looking for. Then you may ask, why did I spend so much time putting together this function? And again, I think you know the reason. That is because when we are using backtesting, we will have to specify exact timestamp till which we want to get the historical data. You can also do it using this function, but then you have to figure out the numeric index, which could get a bit tricky. I mean, you can do that. Once you have a row in data frame, you can get the index and then you can feed that index into this function and get the same information. But again, I leave that to you. These are two functions that we will be using throughout this course. And you will see that during backtesting, this is the function that I use. And when I actually deploy the backtested code in the real trading environment, I'll be using this particular function to get historical data. All right. So this is all about historical data. Let me know if you have any questions. Historical data is something that we are going to use a lot. So please make sure that you have a fairly good understanding how we are extracting historical data. Thanks a lot.